everyone, welcome to this video by DataSense. So we will continue our course on exploratory data analysis using Python. So far in this course, we have covered all the major libraries like Pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib and Seaborn. And we discussed about various data rows that are present in the market. So now we actually start our course from this particular video in the sense that we have some basic knowledge of Python, we have some basic knowledge of libraries. So where all this, like what is this whole workflow involved in the whole process and what all things we will be doing in this particular course. So I'll be speaking about that. Okay, so we'll start with the machine learning pipeline. So you might be thinking that this is data analysis. Why am I talking about machine learning pipeline? Because eventual goal of any data related thing goes from data collection to data analysis to end goal is generating machine learning pipeline to develop insights, right? So we will go right from data collection towards the end till every process is completed, and we will divide it into various categories and we will take them into various sections and we will discuss them in detail. Okay, so first of all, remember, as we have discussed earlier as well, the first step is and whenever you have is your data collection. Okay, this we discussed in our first video as well, data collection. Now how do you do this data collection? It can be done through multiple methods. Now this data can come through CSV files, this data can come through Excel files, it can come through APIs. Okay, there are multiple methods to get that. Now once you get the data, for example, let us say I'm talking about for example loan data, right? I've got the information from various like bank website, bank application, everything I've got, right? The first step after that is comes the data pre-processing. Okay, the major part is data pre-processing. So what is data pre-processing is that before analyzing or before drawing any insights or making any predictions, right, we just want to ensure that my data is actually in a readable format. It does not has any issue, it does not suffer any bias, it does not contain any discrepancies. So what we do in the data pre-processing, there are lot of steps involved which we will discuss further, but mainly I will say we have to do a lot of data cleaning. Okay, we have to do data transformation. These are the major challenges that we have to address. Okay, and beyond this, there are a lot of things here, like for example, you will do one-hot encoding, you will do weight of evidence. Okay, you will do Pearson coefficient. There is a lot of things which goes inside this. I'm not discussing everything right now because we'll be covering this in very much detail moving forward. Now once this is completed, after let's say your data is completed, your everything is sorted, now you have two things. Either you can simply create a Power BI dashboard through it. Okay, let's say you created a Power BI dashboard or any Tableau dashboard and you just analyzed and you are happy. Okay, you created a Power BI dashboard and you said, okay, this is how my business has been performing. Now these all strategic decisions I should take. So you do this type of work. Another type of work is generating the machine learning, right? So before machine learning, you need to decide what kind of prediction or what kind of analysis, what kind of forecasting you want to do. Okay, so you will decide first of all your model, that which model you want to create on your data. Okay, what is how to decide model, what are your objectives of your study? Depending upon that, you will decide your model. Once you create your model, then comes your model evaluation. Okay, okay, now you have created the model on a particular data set. Now you want to evaluate its accuracy. Is it performing well in general or it has some variance or bias? Okay, we will talk about these terms later on as well, but variance and bias means that model is suffering from incorrect values. Okay, that you trained it on a particular data set, but when you test it on a real for example real world, it does not perform well. So after that comes the model evaluation part. Now there are other things as well, like model testing, there is model deployment, and there are like model maintenance. There are a lot of things, but we will not be doing these things in detail. In this course, we will restrict ourselves first of all to data pre-processing. So first will be, sorry, data collection, how we can collect data. Second will be how we can, what all steps are there for data pre-processing. Okay, what all steps are there for model selection. Okay, and what all analysis techniques are there, and what all model evaluation techniques are there. So these are the 5 tech things that we are going to do in this particular course. So let me list them down once again. So the first part that we'll be focusing upon, so I'm breaking this whole particular course in 5 steps, is first is data collection, okay, which is very important to know in Python. How do you collect data across various sources. Okay, then comes data pre-processing. Data pre-processing in itself is a very big word. Okay, so what kind of pre-process, so this will certainly take most of the part or most of the time in the course. Okay, after that, what all analysis you do. Okay, there are multivariate analysis, there is histogram analysis, there is like a lot of analysis. After that, model selection, which, how do you decide which model to select, okay, for any particular thing. And the 5th part is model evaluation, how you evaluate your model, that okay, I have created this thing, but is it performing well or not. So what are various parameters to evaluate your model. Now remember, these things, we are not, this is not a machine learning course, let me tell you very clearly. So don't expect that we will go too much in detail in understanding like lot of ML algorithms. We will study the pipeline. So what I mean by pipeline is that how do you take data and how do you flow it across various channels, and which all things you generate, right? In during that pipeline, whatever things come, I will teach you. But this is not, again, this is not a machine learning course. So don't expect too much on the machine learning part. We'll be focusing, my whole focus will be Python coding only, understanding all these 5 steps through Python coding. Okay, so keep that in mind. Of course, we'll cover machine learning. I'm not saying that we're not going to cover, but not very extensively. We'll be focusing on the coding part of machine learning rather than discussing algorithm themselves. Okay, so that's how we are going to proceed. So this was a fair discussion. Now beyond this, we will also have a section on how to use ChatGPT for your data analysis. This is a very trendy topic nowadays, and like a lot of people, companies, courses covered this. So I spent some time, I have like whatever techniques are there in the market right now, I have covered them. So I'll be covering them. And after this, so how we are going, we'll study each of the topic one by one. Okay, once we study each of them, after that we will start 3 projects. So project 1, project 2, credit risk, project 3, fraud detection, project 1, it's an e-commerce project. Okay, e-commerce, credit risk, and fraud detection. So these 3 projects will be there. So that's how the flow of this particular course. So now we will move forward with the first part, that is data collection. So let us start our topic of the major topic of this video, that is data collection. Okay, so as data analyst or data scientist, you will not extensively be working on data collection part, because that is mainly a task of data engineers. But in my opinion, you should know what all methods are there, because at times there are multiple ad hoc requests, ad hoc projects that you need to do during your work, that you need to know, okay, how data is coming. Because see, no knowledge is useless, to be honest, right? And it's good to know, so that whenever you read any data engineering code, you will understand basic stuff. So let's talk about data collection. So let's say this is my server, right? Now how I can get data to this, for example, this is my company. Okay, this is my company. How I can get data to this? So data can come through multiple methods. It could be a CSV file, it could be an Excel file. Okay, it could be, the data could be from, for example, you can say a SQL database, just like we see, or a NoSQL database. Okay, now data could come from, let's say, it could come from APIs. APIs are what? When you send requests to websites. For example, there's a website which is tracking any live, for example, let's say Facebook or Instagram. Okay, you want any live information, that how many users are there on that website at that particular moment, and how many people have liked a particular post, or how many people have reshared a particular post, right? All this information is tracked using API. So this is for websites. Okay, now apart from this, you can also have data from your cloud warehouses from where you want to get it, right? So all these things are there. Okay, so there are different Python scripts for each of the method. So we don't need to go much in detail, but we should know basic syntaxes, how we get data from CSV, SQL, API. Okay, and these things are, and also text file. It could be a text file. So in this video, I'll be covering first of all CSV and Excel file. Okay, after that we will move towards SQL, how to connect with the SQL database, and then we'll do some API, and then we will see text file. So these four major connections we will try to check, that how do you get data from these particular four things. So let's move towards CSV file. Okay, so we are looking at here loading data from various sources. Okay, now we will read about, as I mentioned, we will check CSV file, Excel sheets, SQL databases, and web APIs. Okay, so we'll focus on these four things. Now CSV file, if you remember the Pandas workshop, we already did there. So I'm just giving a recap of there. We won't discuss this in very much detail, because I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. So for example, let's say you have a basic CSV file and its name is sales data. So how do you do that? You first of all, so remember Pandas is the equivalent of SQL and Excel in Python, right? So first of all, you will import Pandas, and then using Pandas, you'll call the function read CSV and provide the file that is present on your system. Once you have done that, you can print whatever you want. So for example, let's say you want to just print first 5 values, you just give head and you will get the values. So this is pretty straightforward. We have covered this extensively in the Pandas workshop as well. If you want, you can revisit there. Otherwise, you basically just need to remember read CSV. It automatically does everything that you want. Okay, so now let's move toward the second part, that is CSV with custom delimiters. For example, lot of files might have different delimiters that they use. Okay, so how does read CSV file handle that? So if you check in the read CSV end part, there is a hyperparameter separator, and if you give that separator, it will read that particular file, right? That okay, this particular file is separated using this. So let's remove this and let's try to just normally print a CSV file. If I just do this, what I'm getting these signs like this, right? I want to get rid of them. So what I will do, I'll go to read CSV. After I pass the file path, I'll just enter that use separator equal to this, and I'll just print the head and I will get it. Okay, so just like this. So we have got this one as well. So here in the previous one, we also got where comma was there. So by default it was taking comma, but it was, if you want to remove comma, if there are like other delimiters, you can use them as well. So this was a basic usage of CSV. And similarly, there's a Python function called as read Excel, in which you can read through Excel files, multiple Excel files. For example, let's say there is an Excel file, multi-sheet data. Okay, it is present here. I have provided this particular multiple sheet data in the course material. You can check that, place on your system. If you just call whatever sheet you want to call and store in a object, and you just print them, and you will see you can get particular things. So this is basic stuff. This we have done in Pandas as well, how to read data from a CSV file. So there are multiple methods, you can just check them. So that's about reading data from a CSV file. So let us now try to understand how to import data from SQL, right? Because this is something you'll be very extensively using. Now let us say this is your internal server or like your company's storage, for example, correct? Now in SQL there are multiple possibilities. So there could be a simple MySQL server, like a simple SSMS, you can say, SQL Server Management System Studio, right? It can be that. It could be PostgreSQL, okay, PostgreSQL. It could be, for example, SQLite, and it could be anything else. There are multiple SQL connections which are visible. So now how this connection takes place, so how you do things in Python is that, first of all, you have, it is broken into two steps. First is you set up connection. Okay, you set up connection with your SQL server, like whatever it is called. Okay, and after that you write a query, to execute things. Okay, now these queries, although statements will remain same, for example, select star from this, but here you use a concept of cursors, right? Now cursor I will not be able to cover in this course, because cursor is something specifically for SQL. It is not it doesn't come in Python. So basically it's a cursor you create, and through which you are able to get whatever you want. Okay, so that's how the architecture of connecting to or correcting data from any SQL database looks like. So in this example, like for example, what we will do is that we will try to create a SQLite, a small database, and we will create some dummy data set inside it, and we'll try to connect it. So what are we going to do is, this is, you import SQLite 3. SQLite is a light version of SQL, you can say. That's why it is called SQLite. So it can contain up to limited number of rows, so which you want to just test for testing purpose and all that, you can use it. So what you will do that, first of all, you will import SQLite 3, and after that you will create a connection object. So what you do, connect, and you name the database that you want to create inside the SQLite. Now if this database is not present, it will create it by default. That's how this do. Now after that you create a cursor command. Again, this cursor is something out of scope of this particular course, but so don't worry about that if you don't know. I mean, this comes under SQL. So for the time being, just know there is something like cursor. When you will actually be coding at your work, you will get to know these things. So just right now, just try to understand the architecture, what we are doing. Okay, after this we create a table, right? So you use cursor object to execute various commands. Okay, so this first command is creating the database, just like you do in SQL. Create table, and you create the data frame, and then you insert values. Okay, and once you commit and close this, this SQL data set is created in the backend. Now what you want to do, you want to fetch that information. So to fetch that information from the SQL, there's a SQL alchemy, right? The SQL alchemy is something that is used to connect Python to your SQL server. So that is called SQL alchemy. This is a library, or you can say which you need to import, which you need to remember. So it is extensively used when you connect SQL with Python. So after that you create an engine object, and you call this, and you basically give the location to your database. And after that, once you've given that, then you create a query object and select star from your sales data. And what you do, that you convert this query, okay, into a Pandas data frame, because the result that comes out is not necessary like in the format that you want. So basically what you do, you query your result. So let me just walk through the start. First of all, you import Pandas, you import this engine of SQL alchemy, right? From SQL alchemy you will import create engine. What is this engine going to do? This is going to connect your Python to your SQLite server. Okay, so you'll create an instance of this, and you will pass the location of your database. Now you will create a query object, whatever query you want to run. For example, I want to run select star from sales data. Okay, now where do I want to store the result of this output? I want to store in a Pandas data frame. So that's why I do Pandas, and I create in a data frame. And once I run this, I will get this particular information. Okay, so that's how things are done. For example, let's say I want to change where, say I want to change a query that where sales is greater than, for example, let's say 150. Okay, I want only this. So I got only sales which is greater than 150. So that's how you connect to your SQL. So in short, how you set up connection with SQL, you decide first of all which SQL server you want to connect with. Okay, then after that you need to have your cursor object created. After that, the cursor object, you need to have your SQL Alchemy installed, imported, right? And after that, whatever you create the query, you convert it into a Pandas data frame to view it. So this is the architecture. Remember this, how you create with a SQL database and how you import data. So that's about SQL. Now we will move towards APIs. So now comes a very interesting part, that is connecting data with APIs, right? So for a lot of you would have heard this word but might have never used it. So I will spend little more time on this, right? Because SQL, Excel, CSV is something you guys have worked through like lot of time. So then they are pretty simple as well, but API you might not have worked. So first of all, let's discuss what is an API, or I mean, what is the functionality of API. So for what happens that, for example, let's say there is a website, okay, let's say there is a website Instagram, okay. What you want to do, you want to get the real-time data through about their information. For example, how many people are watching any particular video right now, how many people have reshared, how many people have commented, like those kind of real-time data you want, for example, right? So what you do that, I mean, you cannot wait for someone to, okay, I will wait for someone to update that data by 5 p.m. and then I will fetch it from there. No, you want this data with the real time from the website. Okay, so whenever you have to fetch data from website or any information from website, you use a connection. This is called API. Okay, API. So remember, this is used for website when you want to set up a website connection. Okay, so through this API you can fetch a lot of things. For example, you can get the real-time data provided you have the access. So this is a very important thing. Lot of websites, they don't provide API access. Okay, so unless the website is providing you that they are ready to share their data, unless the website is ready to share their data with you, you cannot actually have that data in real time. Okay, so first you have to check whether that website allows a public API or not, or if not public, if it is private, then what, like, do they charge something? Because lot of, for example, let's say talk about ChatGPT, right? You can use ChatGPT to connect any of your to connect to your website, but it has an API connection, and they charge you. For example, they charge $1 approximately per million tokens, right? Something like that they charge. So every API connection might have some fees, so that you have to always check it. Okay, now to get this data from API, how it is done, that is something we will see. So what we will do, for example, we will have a public API. Okay, first we will view how that data comes in. Okay, so just let me show you, in any website, the data is mostly stored in a JSON format, and as you know, JSON format is like a Python dictionary. Okay, for example, you have a key 1 and then you will have a value. Okay, then you have key 2, then you will have a value. It is not like a tabular structure. It's never like a tabular structure in for example, in your this API data or JSON format. Okay, so what you do, first of all, your first step, remember, is to connect to API. Okay, so what you do is set up this API connection. Second, you get this JSON data, get the JSON data. Okay, now what your third step is, you want to flatten the JSON data in a data frame, in a Pandas data frame. Flatten JSON data in a Pandas data frame. So basically, how you will want to convert this particular JSON data rather than this in form of flattening. This is called flattening, that you will convert it into a regular data frame where it is key 1, key 2, key 3, something like this we will see. Okay, so we'll see all this in detail. So remember the steps: connect to API, get the JSON format, get the JSON data, and then flatten it to view. Okay, these are the 3 steps that you should remember. Now let us try to see a public API which I have here. So we will try to access that public API and see. So web APIs are a powerful way to retrieve real-time data directly from the website. Okay, and Python's request library. So in Python, you have to request. As I said, a website may allow or may not allow you their data through API. So it totally depends upon the website while they are creating website. So you need to check that. And not every website will allow you that thing. So for example, let's say I have this website. It is a sample website which shows you real time how the how any API data looks like in the backend. So let's say I click on this. Okay, so this is how. So let me zoom in a little bit to show you. So this is a actual website data in a JSON format. So if you see, this is a JSON, this is a list. Actually inside list there is a dictionary 1 index. So this is the first data, user ID 1, okay, ID 1, title, body. So there are 4 variables, there are 4 keys technically here, or if you convert, there will be 4 columns. Okay, so there is a user ID, there's a ID, there's a title, there is a body. Similarly, there will be multiple entries. So one dictionary means 1 row. So this technically means 1 row. This means 2nd row. This means 3rd row. Okay, so that's how it will look like. So this is how a JSON data looks like. So so let's go through step by step. This URL is an example of a public. This is a public API provided by JSON placeholder. You can just test it how anything looks like. Okay, so while watching this video, do open this data set and check how it looks like. So as I explained you, each dictionary represents a row. If you have to correlate with your normal structured data, each dictionary is a row. Now let's say understand how it looks like. So your URL will have an address. For example, let's say this is your URL, the API key or whatever it is given. The first part is HTTPS. We know that this gives the domain name of the server hosting the API, and this gives the endpoint, basically whether that particular website will allow or not. That is something it is given through. So there's a thing called Postman. You can read about it. So I mean, I'm just giving you an outlook of API. So what an API is and how to fetch the data from it. If you want to get into the context in detail, it will take a lot of time. I will have to create a separate video on APIs for that, but we will do that later. But for the time being, understand every API provides a link or to the website or a key which you have to get permission from. Okay, so how to get permission from, see, I told you have to first of all request the data. So the first step is, as I mentioned, to get API data is to request the website. Okay, and how do you request? There's a request library present in Python. Okay, now it's up to that website's privacy setting whether they allow or not. If they don't allow, you cannot do anything, right? And if they allow, then you will see that. So what you do, import request, and through request you create an object request.get, and you provide that URL, whatever your URL is. Okay, you pass this URL. Now that if they allow, if answer is yes, generally there is a code of 200. It means the connection was successful. And if they don't allow, you will get the message that okay, failed to retrieve the data because for whatever reason. Generally the status code is 200 for successful, but it can vary depending upon like website to website. It's like this. So now you got acceptance, whether you got yes or no. Now once you got it, what you have to do, you have to parse this JSON data. Parse means understanding or converting this JSON data. Okay, so what you do, parse the JSON response. So whatever response you're getting from website, you have to convert it into a JSON format properly. Okay, so you requested, you took the data, converted into the JSON format. Okay, now what it will be the third step, convert this JSON into a Pandas data frame. That's what you need to do. So convert the JSON data into a Pandas data frame. So what do? We create pd.data frame and we pass this data JSON that we created. Okay, and once it is converted, we will print head to check like for whatever is present in there. Okay, so now let me run this. Just a second. Yeah, so if you see, I got request successful. Okay, it showed me request successful. And after that, I have this data present here. And if I convert display.head, so if you see, I have got all the message and the body. So user ID, title, these were the columns which are present in my, so user ID, title and body. So these were the 4 messages which were present. Because this was not coming in a single row, so Python has by default put it in the here. So there were 4 variables: user ID, title and body, and you got each of the message. See, sent, odd, facet, like whatever it is, this Okay, so this is your first title. Second title was QESTESSE, right? So it is your this one. So as I mentioned, each of the dictionary in JSON is a row in Pandas data frame. So that's how it is done. Okay, so I mean, basically this is the overall architecture of getting data through API. So remember the architecture, you need to have a request library, get the data in the JSON format and convert it into a Pandas data frame. So that's about the API connection. So now we come to the last part, that is importing data from text file. So this is also important, but I have already covered this particular part very extensively. I have attached the YouTube video link if you go in the previous Python course video. So this was class 19, file formatting and text files. Okay, so it's a 44-minute video. I have covered this extensively, how to import data from a text file and what all various operations are there. Okay, so I'm not covering this particular part in this, you can just refer it from there. So overall in this particular session, if you see, we saw how to connect data from CSV file, how to connect data from your Excel file, okay, and how to import from SQL database and how to import from APIs and text file. So remember, SQL and API might be new for you. Okay, so please practice them. You might not remember the syntaxes initially, but don't worry, remember the architecture that I explained. Keep that in mind. So see this code again and again and try to see the code, try to do in on some other data, okay, and try to visualize on your own, you will understand. Okay, so if you see in the assignment, I have given 2 questions. The first is you have to create a basic API request using this again only, right? And you have to print some 5 titles from the fetch data. So try to do this question, right? Take reference from the above example that I shared. It's a similar example only, but just that you need to do a couple of more things. And second is creating a SQL database, just like I created above. Enter some values and basically try to print them like in that format. Okay, so that is what I have created here. So these 2 questions are in this assignment. So this data collection video is complete now, and just you should know what all connection possibilities are there. Mostly we will be working on CSV files in this course, but I just gave you a big example how things are done in real world, because I personally don't have APIs and SQL databases of my own, so there's no point. So we'll be doing things on CSV files, but you should remember, because in real world SQL connections and API connections are most used. In real world CSV file is very is not used much, to be honest, because data is very heavy, very huge, so you need API connection or SQL connection. So thanks again for watching this video. Please let me know if there is any feedback regarding the video. If you do not like the explanation or if you are confused somewhere, do let me know. I will try to help you there. And but please understand, this is a new concept, so please understand, stop a little bit, understand, practice on your own, and then you will remember. Okay, you may not remember syntaxes. You might be saying he's repeating again and again. I'm saying because a lot of students, what happens, they syntax and they get scared, right? Don't get scared. Try to understand the architecture of the code, and that I have explained completely. Okay, and then just try to copy the code from what I've written. Try to write on your own as well. Okay, write one by one line and try to improve that, and then you will be able to do. So that's all from my end on this video. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.